Welcome to another exciting edition of Marquee Backstage All Access. I'm your host, Julie Milam. As always, we're going to dive deep into the lives and music of our guests, and we'll share 5 full-length song performances, all of which were recorded at Thunder Sound Studios. Let's get started. On the heels of their last European tour, VERIDIA stops by Marquee Backstage and shares their journey with us, both personally and professionally. But first, we'll kick things off with a performance from their latest release, The Beast You Feed. Here's Ghost.
Screaming voices echo in my head, wanna put them all to rest. But oh, you know it always goes like that, and I want you back again. Hey, 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 hey. Let you go, but now I'm seeing, yeah, hey, 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 hey. Resurrecting all my feelings, hey, 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 hey. Got them walking on the ceiling, and they hit me like a ghost, baby. Rattle in my bones, baby. Cold sweats on the floor, baby. I know there ain't nothing I can do when they're flying around the room like ghosts. Ghosts. Apparitions in the atmosphere got me thinking you were near. Thought I saw visions of you up here, feel it getting cold in here. Yeah, 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 yeah. Let you go, but now I'm seeing, yeah, 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 yeah. Resurrecting all my feelings, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm walking on the ceiling, and they hit me like a ghost, baby. Rattle in my bones, baby. Cold sweats on the floor, baby. I know there ain't nothing I can do when they're flying around the room like ghosts. Ghosts. Heart's beating out my chest every time you leave. The rhythm carries my regrets, haunting desperately. And now I'm wishing you were home. I didn't know that it could bleed my soul. The fire's burning at the door, and I just wanna feel you.
As Viridia's story unfolds, we'll discover what brought these talented artists together and how they strive to evolve with new music and new sounds. And stick around for a performance of their song Feed the Animal, featured on their debut full-length studio album, The Beast You Feed. So how did you guys meet to create the magic that we now know as Viridia?
Well,
Tinder.
Ew. You guys did.
Yeah.
Brandon and I started in Dallas, actually.
15 years ago.
Ew. That's even crazier.
In early college days.
Yeah.
MySpace days. That's how Dina and I met, was on MySpace.
You may have to clarify this, though.
MySpace was a social media platform before it was called social media. It was called Web 2.0. That's why Facebook exists in a way. anyway, we met on that.
And how did you begin playing music together?
I showed up at his apartment with an acoustic guitar and was like, was this good?
Yeah.
I was just playing like singer-songwriter type stuff, like wrote really simple songs at that time. And
Yeah, I was starting a band with some guys, some friends, and we wanted a girl singer in particular, and I had just met Dina, and she would come over and play these simple, little, soulful,
sad girl songs,
you know. I don't think you knew anything about playing rock music.
Mm-hmm. No, I worked at American Eagle.
Yeah, so like dyed blonde hair, but had a killer voice, and so we asked her to audition, and started playing together, you know, X number of years ago, and that eventually led to us meeting Kyle. He flew down to Dallas to play a couple shows with us, and then later, you know, that evolved into VERIDIA, and here we are.
Did we find you on MySpace also?
No, on YouTube. I actually recorded a cover of said band's song, and Brandon actually came across it, and that's how I ended up getting in contact with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I knew they were looking for a replacement, so I did a video, and I psyched myself out and decided not to send it to them. I just posted it on YouTube. Well, they got a Google alert anyway.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah, technology. That's how everyone meets anyway, right?
So how has VERIDIA changed since your first release?
Wow. It's definitely evolved a lot. I think it took me a long time to find my voice, not just like singing. Like I had like the skills, I learned those at a young age, but like learning how to articulate my emotions, like in a very, you know, compact, you know, little song. Like it just took me a long time. Like even when we were first moved here, like we experimented with co-writing for the very first time, and I never realized like how important it was to get other people's perspectives. It's not just about like a personal story that I'm sharing, but how other people are going to relate their stories that I've never heard about. And I realized that was like way more important than just talking about what I've been through. Sorry. It's okay.
So do you guys want to weigh in on how you think VERIDIA has changed since the beginning?
I mean, musically, it's always changing. You know, when we first started the band, we wrote a ton of songs trying to figure out the sound, and 95% of them you will never hear, and we don't want you to hear
95.
because, well, we wrote 100 songs roughly for the first EP, and we released 5, and really we don't want you to hear probably 80 plus of the other ones, because it took a lot of experimentation. We were creating something new, and we had a vision in a way of what we wanted it to be, but didn't have the sound quite figured out yet. And so it took a while to get there. But since then, you know, the band kind of takes on a life of its own. And I think the music should always keep evolving as our tastes change, as we get better at writing or have different experiences or are inspired by different people and life events. The music changes to reflect that. And we've always, with, you know, very few exceptions, I think, felt strongly about the music we released, and we released it for a reason, you know, because we were into it. It represented what we wanted to sound like, and we just keep redefining that as we go.
Kyle, do you think that there are any songs that you guys have written to date that you haven't released, that you might, with your life experience now, go back and add something to or change that really stands for who you guys
songs
are?
that we haven't released?
Right.
There are a few songs that we haven't released that I still listen to on a regular basis that I really like. They just don't really, they don't really vibe with maybe the direction we're going with. They're like either like strictly one genre or strictly another genre. The ones that I really like are pretty rock and roll, which is why I like them so much. And I like to play hard. So, yeah, I don't know about changing them. I'm pretty like set in my, like, once I've made my decision on something, that's pretty much how it's gonna stay. Call it stubbornness, call it confidence, call it whatever you want.
Kyle.
No, I off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that I would go back and change. But there's a reason those songs didn't get released. So I think it's important to to, like Brandon said, always be evolving. Nobody wants to hear the same record over and over again after, 5, 10, 20 years. Like, if the band's writing the same record, you're going to lose some interest. So I think it's important to always be changing, always be evolving. And there's going to be those people that fall by the wayside because they're like, oh, they're not the same band anymore. And we've dealt with that too. But that's a good thing, really, because that means we're growing. And, and we're going to have fans that grow with us and fans that don't. And that's just kind of the beauty of making music. So
That is the future.
Yep.
And your fan base continues to grow as you guys continue to grow. We cannot wait to see where you go from here. If you'd like to know more about VERIDIA, make sure to follow them on social media at VERIDIA Music. There you'll find videos, merch, tour dates, and new music like their incredible new single, Blood Diamond. And while you're at it, make sure to give us a follow on social media as well at Marquee Backstage. We'll keep you updated on upcoming episodes, behind-the-scenes photos, and much, much more. Next, we sit down with vocalist Dina Jacob as she raises awareness about mental health and opens up about her struggles with anxiety. After that, we'll share an intense performance of I Won't Stay Down, a song Dina describes as her anthem during difficult times. So, Dina, you use songwriting as a way to communicate your feelings, sometimes when you can't do that in person.
Yes, songwriting for me is therapy. I journal as often as I can, and I really think that it's important for all of us to have some kind of creative outlet for the things that we go through, and for me, that's songwriting.
Even just to encourage us to communicate our feelings, I think is helpful. And what you do for your listeners in showing your own vulnerability is so helpful, but also very educational.
Yes, I think vulnerability is one of the most important things that we can learn as human beings. All of our deep, meaningful relationships are based off of a vulnerable connectivity. I think that we were created as interdependent beings. Like, we can't really do this life alone. I can't really be like a strong, independent woman just by myself. Like, my community is everything. And if I don't learn how to communicate with my community about what I need, and vice versa, like, how can we really help each other through like our deepest, darkest moments?
So speaking of that, this past year you actually experienced one of your deepest, darkest moments. And I think that you were able to express your feelings and emotions to your family and all of your community that way.
Yeah, honestly, like, the past couple of years have been so hard for me and my family. We lost my dad, and then I moved my mom to Tennessee. And then shortly after that, we got a call that my grandmother had an accident and was hospitalized, and I needed to drive my mom back to Dallas to and help her through rehabilitation. And at the time, my uncle was actually primary caregiver for my grandmother, and he really is like a second father to me too. So it really broke my heart to see him like struggle over so many losses too. And we went down there, and I was gonna, hang with him and be there for him while my mom helped my grandmother through it. And he actually had suffered a brain injury like a decade prior, and we all kind of like ignored it as a family because we wanted him to have his dignity, feel independent, and feel like he could do things himself, and including regrettably allowing him to be like the caregiver for my grandmother. I really thought that was something, we all thought that was something maybe he needed, but it turned out that it was just so much stress and pressure after being hit in the head like with a sledgehammer on the job. Like, it wrecked his like frontal cortex, and like he just changed like emotionally. He was just so sad, like depressed, because he couldn't do all these amazing like skill sets that he had learned throughout his life. Like, he's an amazing carpenter. He built houses. Like, he actually built the bunks in my very first like tour bus. Like, he was just incredible. Always supportive of me and my music career and everything. Music ran in my family, and he taught me like first chords on the guitar and everything. It was just, it was so difficult because we, in that situation as a family, weren't educated. We weren't educated by like doctors or anyone on what to expect from a brain injury or any type of mental illness. It's not something that is talked about very often. And even though he was struggling with depression, he tried to hide it because he didn't want any of us to feel burdened by what he had been going through. And the breaking point was the potential of losing his mom. And when I went there to help him, it was just too much. And he tried to commit suicide by going to a police station with a gun, and they shot at him. And he survived the injuries, but he's now imprisoned because he was on government property with a gun. And there's so much to that story because I have compassion to both sides, like police that weren't fully aware but knew that he had a brain injury but weren't fully educated on like real crisis intervention training. I think that that's an issue in our country. And for my uncle, like trying to protect others from the burden of his depression, like that's not how family works. We're supposed to be open and honest with each other when we're broken down so that we can pick each other up. Like, there shouldn't be ego in family. And I'm just, I'm torn apart because I had to like testify, and to the integrity of this amazing man that I've known all my life. And I just think it's an important thing to talk about, mental health awareness, and promoting vulnerability like within your community, your family, your friends, because after that like was the first time I truly experienced anxiety.
I had always struggled with it my entire life, but after so much loss, like in such a short amount of time, like I broke out in hives. I couldn't really function. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. And I didn't realize that it was my emotions that was affecting that. And we're not educated about that as kids, as teens, when we're the most vulnerable, when our emotions are the most, out there and misunderstood. Like nobody teaches us how to combat those, how to communicate what we're going through. And for me, it took some pushing down my pride and letting my friends and my family know that I really needed help. And I think that for me, I realized like medical, like physical stuff, like you call a doctor when you need help. And when your emotions hit, you don't really call anybody. Like it takes a lot for people to go to a therapist, and it's something that I really promote. I think that it's helpful and necessary, especially when your family is going through a trauma like someone with a brain injury.
And it inspired a song that touches so many.
Yes, after all that, I Won't Stay Down, our song, came out of that. At the time, I couldn't really talk about my uncle's story specifically, and since then I have written a song that's unreleased yet about it. But this one was an anthem that I needed. It's very straightforward, like, sucker punch to the gut, like it hit me hard. I forgot everything that I have. I forgot everything I've got. And all I could focus on was like the depression and everything that I had lost. And I realized that that's not how I want to live my life. I want to make sure that I'm encouraging myself with positive thoughts. I'm encouraging others to know that there is hope. Hope is in the progress. It's in every little step, every tiny win, on a daily basis. And that song was my anthem, and it turned out to be an anthem for a lot of people. It's been out for a year now, and I've been really encouraged by the feedback that we've gotten from it.
Well, we are so grateful to share that anthem with you.
Thank you.
Gotta keep my head up, gotta put myself together.
If you like what you've heard on Marquee Backstage All Access, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Marquee Backstage. There you'll find our catalog of podcasts as well as our televised episodes. Up next is Brandon Brown, guitar player extraordinaire and co-founder of VERIDIA. Brandon tells us about their European tour experience and the band's future plans. Plus, get ready for a powerful acoustic rendition of their song, I'll Never Be Ready. Brandon, you guys just finished up a phenomenal 2019.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have planned for 2020?
2019 was great. We did a couple U.S. tours. We did a European tour, which was amazing. So first things first, in 2020, we'll be back in the studio recording a couple new songs. Don't know the exact release date yet, but we'll have a series of singles coming out. That'll be a big focus for us. And then we hope to go back to Europe, to be honest. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? But yeah, we're working on that, some plans to head back overseas, and always looking for opportunities for the right tour in the U.S. as well.
So what has been your favorite tour or venue or other artists that you performed with? What has been your favorite to date?
That's an easy one, actually. We love all the artists we've toured with, and we've had some really cool opportunities over the years. But the last couple tours we've done have been with a band called Evanescence, and they are amazing, and really have just welcomed us into the family, as a band. We've done 3 U.S. tours with them, and the European tour was with them as well. So the European tour we did started in Verona, Italy, at Arena di Verona, and that has got to be the most unique venue we've ever had the honor to play at. It was built in 30 AD, so nearly 2,000 years ago, and it was amazing, right? So it's this open-air Colosseum-style venue that has just stood forever, and mostly it's just used to host an opera series that they do. So they don't do a lot of rock concerts there by any means, maybe 1 to 2 per year. So I don't personally know anyone else that's performed there. It was really an honor, and it was a great way to kick off the tour. Thankfully, the rest of the tour was great as well. We kind of went from Italy east, all the way to Turkey and some super unique places. But even if the rest of the tour had been terrible for some reason, starting there, it was worth it. That was a bucket list item that I didn't even know should have been on my bucket list, so crazy.
And the first of so many more to come.
I hope so.
When you were out with Evanescence, did you guys do any writing together?
Not on the road. We don't often write on the road because there are so many things going on, and really the focus has to be on the performance. And us, being an independent band, we do a lot more than just perform. We're loading in and out, and we're the crew as well. And I'm the tour manager. Like, there's just a lot going on. So to have that time to just focus and really get into the mindset that writing requires is difficult to do while on the road. Dina has done some writing with Amy now that once we've either been between tours or since that last tour. And she actually performed on our album. Amy Lee did. She played piano on the song I'll Never Be Ready, which is a very special one for many reasons. So yeah, we love writing with anyone creative, talented, but it has been special to write with artists that we've also toured with and just have that another level of friendship with,
It definitely shows another side of you guys to be expressed with someone that you can be creative with.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what do you think you're looking forward to the most in 2020?
We're all really looking forward to getting new music out. So we released our album, The Beast You Feed, in 2018. Time has flown by. It feels like it was yesterday, but it's been a little over a year now, and we're all really anxious to finally share, some really cool songs that we've been working on. We're narrowing it down to our final choices, and what we'll release first, I think is still to be decided at the moment, but that's the most exciting thing for all of us right now.
We cannot wait to see what's next from VERIDIA.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Glad to have you.
You were the one to hold me, the warmth of your arms would heal my wounds. you told me it'd be alright, even if I had the power to watch the clock wind down, I won't. 'Cause you're here right now, and I'll never be ready, ready, ready to say goodbye. I'll never be ready, ready, ready. No, I'll never be ready, ready, ready. Oh, ready, ready, ready. I don't have to think about it. A world without you is not what I want, and still you must leave, and I don't like it. But I'll never forget how much I was loved, even if I knew when, and I saw the signs. Even if you told me it'd be alright, even if I had the power to watch the clock wind down, I won't. 'Cause you're here right now, and I'll never be ready, ready, ready to say goodbye. I'll never be ready, ready, ready. No, I'll never be ready, ready, ready. Oh, ready, ready. Ooh, not all of us are lucky enough to know a love so unconditional. I can't imagine why I would have been without you. Showed me how to fly, and that I might be invincible, but I'll never be ready to say goodbye. I'll never be ready, ready, ready. No, no, I'll never be ready, ready, ready. Oh, ready, ready, ready.
We'd like to thank Thunder Sound Studios for letting us film our show from their fully equipped analog and digital recording studio complex in Franklin, Kentucky. For more information about Thunder Sound, please visit thundersound.com or follow them on social media at Thunder Sound Studio. And be sure to follow us as well at Marquee Backstage. Before we go, we'd like to thank our friends VERIDIA for joining us in studio today. They always leave us wanting more. And next week, we're hanging with the guys from No Deceit, who are guaranteed to bring their remedy to Marquee Backstage All Access. We leave you now with one last song from VERIDIA. This is Cheshire Smile. Until next time, I'm your host, Julie Milam, and I'll meet you here next week on Marquee Backstage All Access.